Today we're going to look at 6-6 function operations, and your learning goal is for you to be able to perform operations of functions. That means adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, compose functions, and use composite functions. So I'm going to give us a function, and then we'll perform the operations. Okay, so we're going to use this given function, f of x equals 3 minus x, and g of x equals 1 over x, and we're going to perform these operations. So let's start with adding them. So we're going to take the f function and add the g. And if you could combine like terms, you will. If not, you have to leave it. And then we're also going to find the domain. So your domain would be all real numbers, except if anything, I call it breaks a rule. And since we have an x in the denominator and we can't divide by 0, and the only number that would make the denominator 0 is 0 itself, it would be all real numbers except for 0. So the way that we write that is negative infinity to 0, union 0 to infinity. So let me rewrite it. So that means anything would work except for 0 itself. Negative infinity to 0, union 0 to infinity. Okay? And then subtraction will look the same. And then you check if you can combine like terms. If you can't, then you don't worry about it. And your domain will be the same since you still have that. And then multiplying you would distribute, or you can write it like this: 3 minus x over x. And here again, we still have an x in the denominator, so our domain hasn't changed. And then the last one is dividing. And same domain. And there you have it. Okay, our next concept is composition of functions, or composing functions. And what that means is you're taking one function and you're putting it into the other. And so the way that this reads is f composite g. That means f g of x, which means you're going to do the inside first. And if it's g compose f, that means gf of x, which means you'll do this inside first. So be careful about the way that is written. So let's say we had this problem. And f of x was x minus 5. And g of x was x squared. And let's say they want us to do g composite f so when you rewrite that, it'll look like this: g of f of negative 3. So what this means is you're going to evaluate f of negative 3 first. So I'm going to evaluate that first, which is negative 8. And then I'm going to take that answer and plug it into the g function, which is x squared, which gives me 64. Now, if they asked us for the other way around, and let's say we're going to use negative 3 again, I want you to see how it changes. So that means f g of negative 3. So that means we're going to do this inside first. So now we're going to plug in negative 3, which is 9, and then you evaluate f of 9. So my final answer is 4. Okay, these are just tips on how to find the domain. This will help you out. Your domain will always be negative infinity or positive infinity, negative infinity to positive infinity, unless you are dividing. And there is a value of x that'll make your denominator 0. And then an example would be something like this. So since 5 makes it 0, then it'll be negative infinity to 5, union 5 to infinity. Or if you have a square root, or I should say an even root, so if you don't see any of those are like the most common things that we see, then your domain will be negative infinity, positive infinity. And we'll talk about the even roots later. But an example would be something like sorry about that. And that's it.